Welcome to the Launchpad Podcast.
Motherfucker!
I'm Zach Long, and welcome to the Launchpad. Today on this album review podcast, I will be talking about Kat Von D's debut album, Love Made Me Do It. The album has just been released, and I've always known her for her LA Ink tattoo show that used to be on, and I've had a bit of a boyhood crush on her, to be honest, so I'm curious to dig into the record and see what she brings to the table with music outside of her tattooing. Now, when it comes to her music, outside of hearing one old demo of a song called Vanish that was floating around the internet, I'm totally clueless as what type of style or what type of music she's going to bring to the table. Track 1 is an intro that feeds into the second song, which is Vanish. Track 1 is a cool, atmospheric, dark synth intro that has a John Carpenter vibe to it. And then, as mentioned, it feeds directly into track 2, which is Vanish. Now, Vanish is the first song that I've heard from her. As I mentioned in the past, there was a demo version that was floating around the internet, and that is what I heard. The version on the album is re-recorded. It is not the same exact track, so it's a new take on the song, extra instrumentation, and things of that nature. But Vanish is a piano ballad at heart. The vocal is just as good as the version I've heard before, but it sounds a little more cleaned up. The music features a light use of what sounds like string instrument patches played by a synthesizer that weave around to dress and complement the main piano line. Then the final act of the song explodes with an industrial drum machine that adds an extra pop to the track and helps drive everything home. Kat's lyrics are very journal-like and personal, really opened up and on display, and I felt like they were a pivotal part in making this a really good song, and it is one of my favorites off the album. Track 3, Enough. This song is a really cool 80s synth track. The drum machine kicks like a retro dance song, and it mixes well with the synthesizer. It's a groovy tune with a chorus that slows down the tempo a bit from the verse, with more deliberately sung vocals. I could see this one being a single. It's a good song overall, good pop song, and it had a few lines in the lyrics that kind of stuck out in my mind after listening to it. Track 4, Exorcism. This song is basically Enough's big sister. I'm starting to think that the whole 1980s synthwave dance theme is going to be the main vibe of the album. And if it is, that's cool with me. I like the way it's being executed on this record so far. But from what I've actually heard in the past about her collaborators and such, like Danny Lohner from Nine Inch Nails and things, I was expecting a little more industrial, to be honest, but that's okay. I mean, even though it's not exactly more to my personal taste, I can dig it for what it is. You know, I can respect somebody that has a style that they want to feature throughout the whole album and kind of make it tie together with musical similarities. You know, that's fine. It's just a little different than I anticipated from Kat, to be honest. Track 5, Protected. This song features Peter Murphy from the band Bauhaus. He's a goth rock legend for decades now. They had some of the best songs of the era. Their cover of David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust is really, really good. Their song She's in Parties is probably my favorite they've done. Bela Lugosi's Dead is another good track. So if you're not familiar with Bauhaus or Peter Murphy, do yourself a favor, check out a few of those songs and you might find something you like. On this song though, the lyrics are a bit goofy for my taste. And to my understanding, they were written by Peter, not Kat Von D. But I do love how the synth work is pulled off on this, and Kat and Peter's vocals really have like a perfect alchemical balance that seems to feed, especially into the last minute of the song when the drum machine kicks in, and it's just like a whole big vortex of sound and expression. You know, that's the best part for me. It's a fun listen for sure, but as I mentioned before, the lyrics threw me off a little bit. I mean, they're talking about flippers and dolphins and sons of dolphins, and it was just a little peculiar, shall we say. Track 6, Fear You. Damn, this one is catchy as hell. I've heard it twice, and it's totally in the running for my favorite off the album. The synthesizer is the biggest draw. I mean, this is just top-notch stuff. Kat's voice really sounds cool here, and I just imagine this track being played in the middle of a late-night drive, Miami Vice style. Hands down, if this is not a single, it should be. Track 7, I Am Nothing. I Am Nothing is not a bad track, but for my personal taste, it is probably my least favorite so far. Musically, it didn't reel me in like Fear You or Vanish did, but Kat's lyrics remain open and journal-like, and you can make an argument that this may be as open as you'll find her lyrics on the whole album. So I'm gonna give this one maybe another listen or two going forward, but it just did not stick with me like some of the other songs have. Track 8, Lost at Sea. Now, with Lost at Sea, to be honest, I have lukewarm feelings about this one. It seems a bit dull compared to some of the earlier tracks and a bit more predictable. But for more pop-oriented listeners, I could see them liking this. I'm just more of a rock, metal guy. When things get a little too soft musically, it sometimes drags me out of the song. But I can see why people might like it. I can see why it's on the album, but it just didn't do a whole lot for me personally. Track 9, Interlude. Now, this interlude is quite dark compared to some of the other tracks on the album. It has a killer beat played over a synthesizer part that reminds me of like dark Halloween music. And faintly in the background we hear distorted industrial style vocals, but they're so quiet I can't make out the words. But it's overall a pretty sweet instrumental, something definitely a lot more in tune with my personal taste. Track 10, Pretending. This one is so cheesy 80s, I can barely take it. It could be from the new wave era, no doubt. Like if you heard a radio back in 1985 that was just playing a bunch of synthwave pop songs, this one could be on that rotation of the playlist and it would fit right in. You would not really be able to tell that it was something that came out in 2021 compared to 35 years ago. So that's cool. You know, it definitely has that going for it. It's not really to my personal taste, and it is one of my least favorite off the album. But once again, going back to Miami Vice, I mean, this is something that sounds like it could be playing in the car scene when they're jamming down the road in deep thought, ready to catch a killer or something. So when it comes to that retro 1980s vibe, I mean, she's definitely pulling off that style pretty well. Track 11. Easier sung than said. I feel like her lyrics on this track are pretty strong. It's again more pop-based, and it mixes traditional piano with the synth work in parts. It's not a bad song, it's okay, but I would consider this one more in the middle tier of the track list compared with the others. In an interview she gave, she said that this song was basically in response to a unrequited love situation from a few years ago where she was dating some musician overseas and he wasn't really good at speaking about his emotions or talking to her about how he felt. So he made this album for her, like recorded it with his band and then mailed it to her with a little note that said, "These are the things that are easier sung than said." And she said that she got the name for the title of the song from that little note. And I guess this whole album is supposed to have been her response to him. Like, as he made an album to try to explain his side of stuff to her, I guess she made this album as a response to him, or at least that's how I understood it. Also, she mentions that her and this person are no longer together and they haven't been together for a long time. It just took a long time for this record to come out after it was already kind of finished. So I'm not sure how far back this was just kind of sitting in the can, if we're talking about 3 to 5 years and it's just collecting dust until now. I can't really speak for that, but I just wanted to bring that information up because I thought it was interesting that potentially this whole record was her response to somebody's kind of avoidant nature when it comes to verbally expressing themselves and choosing to do it through art instead. In track 12, The Calling. The record's final track is another synth ballad. It includes a use of audio samples in the bridge, which give it an extra retro feel. Kat Von D's singing is as strong here as you'll find it on any of the other tracks. It's a very unique song to close out the record with. I feel like it did a good job of kind of tying things all together at the end and wrapping things up. So, final thoughts. Overall, for her long-awaited debut album, Kat Von D gives us a record that's an interesting listen throughout, and it makes me curious to see if she will tour on this record soon, or if she will at all. I've heard rumors there's an alternative mix to this record, which is like all goth industrial style. I hope that's true because that style is a little more to my taste. You know, that's what I like in a lot of music, and I definitely prefer that to the 80s synth pop style. However, the record is very cool for what it is. It holds a few really good songs and never gets boring, and I'll be interested to see what's in store for her music career next. If you're a fan of pop music, check it out. If you're kind of more into the metal or industrial rock kind of side of things, you may not find a whole lot here. But for a debut album that has been supposed to be put out a long time ago, definitely long overdue for Kat, and it was a fun listen. And while it may not be on my end of the year album chart, it definitely has me eager to see what comes from Kat Von D next.